The Amish have been keeping chickens for over 200 years, and in all that time, not one of them has ever stood in a feed store aisle wondering whether they could afford to keep their flock going another month. Not because they had some advantage in land or money, not because they had access to something the rest of us don't, because they understood something that most modern chicken keepers have quietly forgotten. You don't buy chicken feed, you grow it. And the feed store is not a fixed part of keeping chickens. So it feels that way because we were handed a system built around monthly purchases and we never questioned it. But there is a different system, older and more reliable, built around 5 specific plants that grow back every season, ask very little of the person growing them, and provide the protein, calcium, vitamins, and minerals a laying flock needs to stay healthy and productive through the year. And today I want to share those 5 plants, how the Amish use them, and how you can start building the same kind of system this season, regardless of how much land or time you have available. The first plant is Moringa, and if you keep chickens in a warm climate and have not planted it yet, I want to gently tell you that you have been paying for nutrition you could have been growing. Moringa leaves carry approximately 27% protein, higher than most commercial poultry feeds, along with meaningful amounts of vitamin A, vitamin C, and calcium, which directly supports eggshell quality and consistent laying. What makes it fit the Amish approach perfectly is its behavior when you harvest from it. Cut the branches back, and Moringa does not slow down. It accelerates, pushing out multiple new shoots packed with fresh growth from every pruning point. The more you harvest, the more it gives. Left unpruned, it grows tall and thin. Pruned regularly, it stays dense and productive, producing several pounds of leaves every 2 to 3 weeks through the growing season. Plant 1 seedling or cutting in a sunny spot, and within a year, you have a tree that can sustain a small flock's protein supplement without any purchased input. In cooler climates, where Moringa goes dormant in winter, dry and grind the surplus leaves from the warm season into powder that stores for months and adds to feed year-round. The Amish waste nothing, and this is how you make sure nothing from the tree goes to waste either. The second plant is Comfrey, and this one earns its place on every traditional homestead for a reason that becomes obvious once you understand what it does underground. Comfrey roots grow 10 feet straight down into the soil, far deeper than almost any other plant in the garden, pulling up phosphorus, potassium, calcium, and iron that nothing else can reach, and concentrating all of it in its leaves. Those leaves carry 20 to 25% protein and a calcium content specifically valuable to laying hens. Chickens eat comfrey, fresh, wilted, or chopped without any preparation required. Established comfrey patches have been documented producing from the same roots for over 20 years. On a homestead that needs systems to hold up across seasons and decades rather than requiring annual restarts, and that kind of longevity matters more than almost anything. Plant it from root cuttings near wherever you already walk each morning, along the path to the coop, beside the barn, at the edge of the garden. Cut leaves every 4 to 5 weeks through the growing season and let the chickens do the rest. Water it during the first year while the roots are establishing, and after that, the roots go deep enough to find moisture that other plants cannot reach. No fertilizing, no pest management, no replanting. One of the most resilient and useful plants you can put in the ground. If either of these first 2 plants is already something you are considering, I would love to know. Leave me a comment and tell me which one makes the most sense for your setup and your climate. I read every comment that comes in, and those responses consistently help me understand what is actually useful to share. This is a small channel, and I want those conversations to stay direct and real. The third plant solves a problem that stops many people from growing their own feed before they start. What if you do not have enough land? Azolla is a floating water fern that doubles its mass every 3 to 5 days in a container no bigger than a wash tub, no soil, no garden beds, just water and partial sun and a starter culture you can order inexpensively from aquatic suppliers. Azolla carries 25 to 35% protein along with vitamins A and B1, 2, iron, calcium, and the amino acids chickens need for strong immune health and consistent egg production. Farmers across Southeast Asia and South Asia have fed poultry with Azolla for generations. Fill a shallow container with 4 to 6 inches of water and float your starter culture, set it in partial sun, and within days you are producing feed. Every few days, scoop out roughly half of what is growing and feed it directly to your flock. What remains regrows and refills the container within days. Scoop, feed, regrow, repeat, and one container produces several pounds of fresh feed per week. 2 or 3 containers in the warm months can cover a meaningful share of the protein needs for a flock of 6 to 10 birds. One practical note, run multiple containers rather than one. Azolla can crash in extreme heat or if water quality drops suddenly. Multiple containers mean if one fails, you have backup cultures already growing. Subscribe if you want to follow this series because I have a lot more of this kind of material ahead. Practical systems from traditional farming communities that have been quietly working for generations while modern agriculture went another direction. I am not asking to build a number. I am asking because if this subject holds your attention the way it holds mine, I think the next one will be worth your time. The fourth plant is tree collards, and what sets them apart from every other green in this list is longevity. Most garden crops run a 1-year cycle. Plant, grow, harvest, die, start over next spring. Tree collards live 5, 8, sometimes 10 years from a single planting and push out large, nutritious leaves continuously, not for a season, but for years. Rich in vitamins A, C, and K, along with calcium, iron, and antioxidants. They provide exactly what a laying hen needs for consistent egg production and strong shells. Tree collards do not grow from seed. You start them from cuttings, which root reliably in soil or water within 2 to 3 weeks. Once planted in well-drained soil with good sun, they ask almost nothing. Once a week, pull outer leaves and toss them to your birds, and the plant keeps producing new growth from the center continuously. One mature plant gives you several pounds of greens per month, and 4 to 6 plants cover fresh greens for a small flock through most of the growing season. Once a year, cut back the woody stems and mulch around the base to keep the plant producing tender young leaves. In November, when your garden is bare and feed prices are where they always are, you can still walk out and cut fresh greens. Not because you worked harder, but because you planted something that lasts, rather than something that needs to be replanted each year. The fifth plant is Amaranth, and it is the one that gives you the most for the least ongoing effort because it gives you 2 things from one planting: fresh greens through the growing season and high-protein seeds in the fall. And it replants itself every year without any help from you. Amaranth leaves are soft, fast-growing, and chickens eat them immediately. The seeds carry 13 to 14% protein, along with all the essential amino acids, iron, calcium, magnesium, and B vitamins, greens, and grain from a single plant across the same season. Here is what makes Amaranth fundamentally different from the others. Once you scatter the seeds the first time, you are done. It flowers, drops seeds, and comes back on its own every spring without replanting. The Amish kept growing amaranth for generations because once it is on your land, it stays there, requiring no seasonal restart and no investment beyond the first handful of seeds. Grain varieties like Golden Giant work well. Scatter on prepared ground, rake lightly, water once. In early season, thin crowded seedlings and feed the thinnings to your flock. Fresh greens from the first week, and through the summer, pull outer leaves continuously. In late summer, let some plants mature their seed heads, harvest them, and dry them for fall and winter feed. Let a few seed heads drop to the ground and next year's crop comes back on its own. Even if you get busy and ignore it for a season, it still comes back and still produces. Here is what I want to leave you with, because it is the piece that makes the whole system work. The Amish do not grow these plants as 5 separate projects. They design their land around them. Each fills a different nutritional gap at a different season. Stacked together across a property, they produce diverse fresh feed almost every month of the year without adding extra trips or extra tasks to anyone's daily routine. The Amish walk past Moringa on the way to the coop. Comfrey grows along the fence they pass every morning. Azolla floats in a container by the barn. Tree collards and Amaranth fill the gaps in the garden beds. Every harvest fits into an existing routine. That is the whole design principle. You do not need to build a whole system this month. Start with one plant this season, one cutting of comfrey along your fence line, one moringa seedling in a sunny spot, one Azolla container on the porch. And that first plant is the beginning of something that compounds over time the same way it has on Amish farms for 200 years. If you were going to try one of these, tell me which one in the comments. Come back at the end of the season and tell me how it went. Those honest reports from people who are actually doing this are the most useful thing in this community.